The pregnancy test slipped from my bag. 2 pink lines clattering across marble as Dominic Vescari's footsteps echoed down the gallery hall. 5 months of hiding, 5 months of terror, about to end in the worst possible way. The Vescari gallery always felt like a cathedral at night, silent, grand, and unforgiving. I pressed one hand against my stomach, willing the nausea down as I polished the glass cases displaying priceless artifacts. The baby kicked. Again, as if sensing my fear. Maria, the head curator, hissed my name across the marble floor. Ariana, Mr. Vescari is here. Private viewing. Stay invisible. Her eyes held a warning I'd seen 100 times. Don't be noticed. Don't be remembered. Don't exist when he's here. I'd worked at the gallery for 8 months and had mastered the art of being a ghost. But tonight, with morning sickness hitting at 9 p.m. and my loose cardigan barely concealing the curve, I could no longer hide. Invisibility felt impossible. Dominic Vescari. Even thinking his name made my pulse spike. I'd only seen him twice, both times from a distance. A man carved from shadows and expensive suits, the kind of power that didn't need to be announced. The staff whispered. The gallery was just the front. The Vescari name ran half the city's underworld, and crossing him meant disappearing. I bent to retrieve my cleaning supplies, and that's when it happened. The pregnancy test, the one I'd stupidly brought to compare dates, to convince myself this was real, tumbled from my bag. It skittered across the polished floor with a sound like thunder. I lunged for it, but footsteps stopped me cold. Not the soft shuffle of security. Heavy, deliberate. Close. My eyes lifted slowly, past Italian leather shoes, past the perfect lines of a black suit, past the glint of a silver watch, until they met his. Dominic Vescari stood 3 feet away, his dark eyes fixed not on me, but on the test lying between us. The air seemed to thicken. His expression didn't change. No shock, no disgust, just a terrible, calculating stillness. Then he moved. One fluid motion. He bent, picked up the test, held it up to the light as if examining a forgery. When his gaze finally met mine, it was with an intensity that made my knees weak. Is this baby mine? The question hung in the air like a knife. And I realized with horror, he didn't recognize me at all. But he was already claiming what he thought was his. The private office sat at the end of a hallway I'd been told never to enter. But Maria's orders were absolute. Clean it. Quickly. He's in the vault and will return in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. I could do this. The office was exactly what I expected. Dark wood leather, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city like a kingdom. A desk that probably cost more than my yearly salary. Everything precise, controlled, dangerous. I worked fast, my hands still shaking from the encounter downstairs. He'd walked past me after that terrible question, dismissed by a phone call, leaving me gasping against the wall. A case of mistaken identity. He thought I was someone else, someone he'd been with. I should have corrected him. Should have explained. But fear had locked my throat shut. Now I just needed to finish and disappear before he returned. I dusted the bookshelves, emptied the trash, my cardigan catching on the desk corner as I reached for the window cleaner. The fabric pulled. My bag tilted. And everything spilled. Lipstick. Receipts. Breath mints. The spare test I'd taken this morning, still in its box. My hands scrambled across the floor, shoving everything back, my pulse thundering in my ears. 12 minutes left. 11. I didn't hear the door open. You're still here. I froze, half-crouched behind his desk, pregnancy test box clutched in my hand. Dominic stood in the doorway, jacket gone, shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. Tattoos curved up his forearms. Dark ink that made him look even more dangerous in the dim light. His eyes dropped to what I was holding. The room felt like it stopped breathing. He crossed the space in 4 strides, each step deliberate, predatory. I scrambled to my feet, but there was nowhere to go. He was already there, towering over me, his presence swallowing all the air. I asked you a question earlier. His voice was quiet. Deadly quiet. You didn't answer. I'm sorry, Mr. Vescari, I didn't mean. Is this baby mine? Not a question this time. A demand. His hand moved, and I flinched, but he only plucked the box from my fingers, examining it with the same terrible focus he'd given the test downstairs. When his gaze lifted back to mine, it was molten steel. 5 months, he said, and I realized with horror he'd seen the timeline on the box. You've been here 8. The math was damning. The conclusion inevitable. No, I whispered. No, it's not. Don't lie to me, Ariana. My name in his mouth felt like ownership. I don't forget faces. I don't forget nights. And I sure as hell don't forget what's mine. The baby kicked hard as if responding to his voice. And I realized he would never believe the truth. That I'd never met him before tonight. That this child belonged to a dead man. That this was all a horrible mistake. His hand moved to my chin, tilting my face up. So I'll ask one more time. And you'll answer honestly. Whose baby is this? The truth came out in a broken whisper. Liam. His name was Liam. Dominic's hand dropped from my chin like I'd burned him. He stepped back, his expression shifting from possessive certainty to something far more dangerous, cold calculation. Liam what? Chun. Liam Chun. My voice cracked. He was my boyfriend. He left 6 months ago. I didn't know I was pregnant until he was already gone. I tried to find him, but he just vanished. The silence that followed felt like standing on ice, hearing it crack beneath my feet. Dominic turned away, moving to the window, his shoulders rigid. When he spoke, his voice was stripped of all emotion. Liam Chin. About 5'10", mixed heritage, scar through his left eyebrow. Worked as a courier. My heart stopped. You knew him? I knew what he was. Dominic's reflection in the window was terrifying in its stillness. A thief. A dead man. The room tilted. I gripped the desk. What? He turned. And the man looking at me now wasn't the one who'd assumed possession minutes ago. This was the Capo. The killer. The legend whispered about in darkened corners. 3 months ago, the amulet of Serafina was stolen from a secured transport. A piece worth $8 million, with historical value beyond price. It belonged to me and was promised to the Bellomo family as part of a treaty negotiation. His eyes bored into mine. Your Liam took it. No, Liam wouldn't. Liam did. Each word was a nail in a coffin. He broke into the transport, killed 2 of my men, and disappeared with the amulet. The Bellomo family held me responsible. Demanded blood or the piece returned. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Liam, sweet, charming Liam who brought me coffee and kissed my forehead, was a murderer? We found him 4 weeks ago, Dominic continued, merciless. In a warehouse in Red Hook. He didn't have the amulet. Said he'd already sold it, wouldn't say to who. He paused, letting the implications settle like poison. My men were thorough in their questioning. Is he? I couldn't finish. Dead? Yes. No emotion. No regret. The Bellomo family required proof. They got it. My knees gave out. I caught myself on the desk, bile rising in my throat. The father of my child. Dead. Murdered. And the man in front of me had ordered it. The amulet is still missing, Dominic said, moving closer again. Which means the Bellomo family is still hunting. And now you, his eyes dropped to my stomach, are carrying the child of the man who stole from both families and started a war. Understanding crashed over me like ice water. They'll think I know where it is, I whispered. They'll think you're leverage. His hand cupped my jaw, forcing me to meet his eyes. Which makes you the most dangerous woman in New York. To them. And to me. The Bellomo family doesn't negotiate. Dominic released me, pacing like a caged predator. Marco Bellomo lost face when that amulet disappeared. His old guard associates questioned his strength, his control. He needs a win, preferably bloody. I pressed harder against the desk, my hand instinctively covering my stomach. I don't know anything about an amulet. I don't know where Liam went, what he did. They won't care. He stopped, facing me with brutal honesty. They'll take you. They'll take that baby when it's born. They'll use both of you to send a message that debts get paid in blood. His jaw tightened. And if they discover you worked for me? That Liam had access to my gallery, my schedules, my security protocols through you. Horror washed through me. I never told him anything. Doesn't matter what's true. Matters what they'll believe. He moved closer, his presence overwhelming. You have 2 options, Ariana. 1, you walk out of here tonight, disappear, hope they never find you. Give birth alone. Raise that child in hiding, always looking over your shoulder, waiting for the knock on the door. My throat closed. I could barely breathe. Or 2, his voice dropped, intimate and terrifying. You become mine. What? Publicly. Completely. You move into my penthouse tonight. Tomorrow, you're seen on my arm. Within 48 hours, every family in the tri-state area knows Ariana Moretti is under Vescari protection. His eyes held mine with laser focus. The baby becomes my responsibility. My heir. Untouchable. I stared at him, trying to process. You'd claim another man's child? I'd claim what's necessary to maintain order. He leaned against the desk beside me, close enough I could smell his cologne, expensive, dark, intoxicating. The Bellomo family won't touch you if they think you're mine. It would be a declaration of war they can't afford. Not with the territory disputes already brewing. So I'd be what? Your girlfriend? Your consort. Partner. The woman carrying the future Vescari heir. His hand moved to my chin again, gentler this time but no less possessive. You'd have everything: protection, medical care, security, comfort. A doctor on call. Guards who'd die before letting anyone near you. And in exchange, you give me your freedom, your obedience, your trust. His thumb traced my jawline. You play the part convincingly. You don't run. You don't question. And you never, ever tell anyone that baby isn't mine. It was a cage. A beautiful, suffocating cage wrapped in protection and promises. If I say no, something flickered in his eyes, almost like regret. Then I can't help you. And the Bellomo family will find you within a week. I looked at my stomach, at the life growing inside me that had never asked for any of this. How long? My voice was barely audible. Until the threat is eliminated. Until you're safe. I closed my eyes. Opened them. Met his gaze. Okay. The penthouse occupied the entire 42nd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around 3 sides, the city glittering below like scattered diamonds. Marble floors, modern furniture that probably cost more than my childhood home, art that belonged in museums. A cage didn't usually come with a view like this. Your room. Dominic opened double doors to reveal a suite larger than my entire apartment. King bed with silk sheets, walk-in closet already stocked with clothes in my exact size, bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people. The doctor will be here in an hour. Dr. Sarah Chun, no relation to Liam. She's discreet in mine. I stood in the doorway, my small duffel bag pathetic against the luxury. This is too much. This is necessity. He moved past me, opening the closet. Tomorrow night, we attend the Castellano charity gala. You'll need to look the part. His hand trailed over designer dresses. The entire underworld will be watching. My stomach churned. I don't know how to. You'll learn. He turned, his presence filling the space between us. Rule 1. You don't leave this building without my knowledge. Ever. Your security detail will be outside this door, in the lobby, in any vehicle you enter. I'm a prisoner. You're protected. There's a difference. His voice softened slightly. Rule 2. What happens in this penthouse stays private. Out there, he gestured toward the windows. You smile. You touch my arm. You look at me like you chose this. Like you want this. Heat crept up my neck. And in here we maintain boundaries. Your room is yours. Mine is mine. This is a business arrangement, Ariana. Not a romance. The clarification shouldn't have stung, but it did. Rule 3, he continued, moving closer. You trust me. Completely. If I tell you to move, you move. If I tell you to stay silent, you don't breathe. Your survival and that baby's life depend on your obedience. I lifted my chin, meeting his eyes. And if I break the rules? Something dangerous flickered across his face. Let's not find out. A knock interrupted us. 2 men in dark suits entered. One older with silver hair, one younger with cold eyes. Boss, perimeter is secure. Chin is on her way up. Dominic nodded. Ariana, this is Marcus and Tony. Your shadows. They'll accompany you everywhere outside this penthouse. Marcus offered a professional nod. Tony's gaze swept over me, assessing, calculating threat level. Get comfortable, Dominic said, already moving toward the door. Dr. Chin will want to do a full examination. I'll have dinner sent up after. Wait. I caught his arm, then immediately released it, aware of how the guard's attention sharpened. You're leaving? I have business. The kind that keeps you breathing. But he paused, looking back at me with an expression I couldn't read. Welcome home, Ariana. The door closed behind him with a quiet click. I was alone in a golden cage, carrying a dead man's child, claimed by a killer. And somehow I'd never felt safer in my life. The gown was midnight blue, silk that clung to curves I'd tried so hard to hide. The stylist had worked magic, strategic draping that suggested elegance rather than pregnancy, though I was certain anyone looking closely would know. My hair fell in soft waves, diamonds at my throat that cost more than I'd earn in 5 lifetimes. You look perfect. Dominic's voice came from behind me. I turned and my breath caught. He wore a tuxedo like he was born in one, tailored to perfection, bow tie slightly loosened, dark hair swept back. Dangerous and devastating. He crossed the room, pulling a small box from his pocket. One more thing. A ring. Emerald surrounded by diamonds, Art Deco styling, clearly an antique. Dominic, I can't. You can. He slid it onto my right hand, not my left. A deliberate choice. It belonged to my grandmother. It says you're claimed without saying you're married. The distinction matters. His thumb traced over the ring, then my knuckles, sending unwanted shivers up my arm. The gala was held at the Metropolitan Club, old money and new power mixing under crystal chandeliers. Dominic's hand rested possessively on my lower back as we entered, and I felt every eye in the room turn toward us. Vescari finally brought someone, a woman whispered. Who is she? Look at that ring. Dominic leaned close, his breath warm against my ear. Smile. You're supposed to want to be here. I smiled. He guided me through the crowd, introducing me with casual possession. This is Ariana. Never my last name. Never an explanation. Just ownership. Then I saw them. A group of men across the room, their attention fixed on us with predatory focus. The one in the center was older, silver-haired, with eyes like a shark. Bellomo, Dominic murmured, his hand tightening on my waist. Right on schedule. Fear spiked through me, but Dominic pulled me closer, his lips brushing my temple in a gesture that looked tender but felt strategic. They're watching. Give them a show. My hand moved to his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady, controlled, while mine raced. What kind of show? The kind that makes it clear you're untouchable. His hand cupped my face, thumb stroking my cheek with surprising gentleness. To anyone watching, we looked like lovers lost in each other. That baby is mine. You are mine. And touching either would cost them everything. Then he kissed me. Not deep, not inappropriate for the setting, but possessive enough to send a message. His lips were warm, firm, claiming. My fingers curled into his lapel, the world narrowing to just this moment, this man, this dangerous illusion we were creating. When he pulled back, his eyes held something I couldn't name. Something that looked almost real. They received the message, he said quietly, but he didn't let me go. Across the room, Marco Bellomo raised his glass in acknowledgement. A challenge accepted. A war delayed, not avoided. And Dominic kept me against him for the rest of the night, his touch burning through silk, his attention never wavering, until I couldn't tell anymore where the performance ended and something else began. 3 weeks into the arrangement, Dominic came home early. I'd grown used to eating dinner alone, Marcus stationed outside my door, the penthouse silent except for the city humming 42 floors below. But tonight, he appeared in the dining room doorway, tie loosened, jacket gone, exhaustion carved into his features. May I join you? The question surprised me. He usually commanded, never asked. It's your table. He poured 2 glasses of wine, then paused, looking at mine. Water for you. I wasn't thinking. We ate in comfortable silence, or what passed for comfortable between a captive and her captor. But when he rolled up his sleeves, I saw it. A scar, thick and jagged, running from his wrist halfway to his elbow. He caught me staring. My uncle gave me this. I was 17. I set down my fork, waiting. My father built the Vescari empire from nothing. Ruthless but fair. He had rules, no civilians, no children, honor above all. Dominic's fingers traced the scar absently. My uncle thought those rules made him weak. Thought compassion was liability. The pain in his voice was carefully controlled but present. He orchestrated a coup. Invited my father to a family dinner. 12 men were waiting. His jaw tightened. I tried to warn him. My uncle held me down, made me watch. Cut me open when I tried to fight, told me this was the price of loyalty to a weak man. My hand moved across the table before I could stop it, covering his scarred wrist. Dominic. My father died protecting me. Used his last breath to get me out. His eyes met mine, and I saw the boy he'd been beneath the killer he'd become. I killed my uncle 3 years later. Took back everything he'd stolen. And I swore I'd never let anyone I claimed as mine suffer for my weakness again. The weight of that vow settled between us. Is that what I am? I asked softly. Someone you've claimed? You're someone I refuse to fail. His hand turned, fingers threading through mine. Why didn't you have family to run to? When Liam left, the old wound opened easily. Car accident. I was 19. My parents and little brother were going to my college orientation. My voice cracked. I was supposed to be in that car. I missed it because I was fighting with my boyfriend about something stupid. Ariana. They died because I wasn't there. And I've been alone ever since. Working, surviving, invisible. A tear escaped. Then Liam made me feel seen. Special. And that was a lie too. Dominic stood, moving around the table. He pulled me to my feet, his hands framing my face with unexpected tenderness. You're not invisible anymore. Not to me. This is just an arrangement, I whispered, but I didn't pull away. Is it? His forehead touched mine, and for the first time, the distance between us felt like a choice rather than a rule. Because it stopped feeling like business the moment you trusted me with the truth. The kiss at dinner had been tentative, questioning. This was inevitable. Dominic's hands slid into my hair, tilting my face as he deepened the kiss, and I melted into him. 6 weeks of tension and proximity and forbidden want finally breaking through every barrier we'd erected. His touch was possessive but reverent, claiming but careful. We shouldn't. I breathed against his mouth, even as my fingers worked the buttons of his shirt. No, we shouldn't. But he lifted me onto the dining table, stepping between my legs, his hands spanning my waist. Tell me to stop, Ariana. I couldn't. Didn't want to. I pulled him closer instead, and he groaned, his lips moving to my neck, my collarbone, every touch igniting something I'd tried so hard to suppress. You're supposed to be off limits, he murmured against my skin. A contract. A strategy. And you're supposed to be my captor. My hands traced the scar on his arm, then higher, over the tattoos I'd memorized from stolen glances. When did that change? The moment you looked at me like I could save you. He pulled back, his eyes dark with want and something deeper. Like I was worth trusting despite everything you knew I was capable of. His hand moved to my stomach, palms spread over the obvious curve. The baby kicked, strong and insistent, and Dominic's expression transformed. Wonder mixing with fierce protectiveness. I feel him, he whispered. Could be a her. Him. Certainty rang in his voice. A son. Strong like his mother. The words wrapped around my heart. Dominic, he's not. He's mine. His hand pressed firmer, possessive. Biology doesn't make a father. Choice does. Protection does. Being there when he takes his first breath, teaching him right from wrong, making sure no one ever hurts him. That makes a father. Tears burned my eyes. You mean that? I've never meant anything more. He kissed me again, slower this time, deeper. His name will be Luca. After my father. The man who died protecting what was his. Something broke open in my chest. The last wall I'd been holding between us. Luca Vescari. Luca Vescari, he confirmed, lifting me from the table, cradling me against his chest as he carried me toward his room, not mine. And his mother will be under my protection, in my bed by my side. Not as a contract. As my choice. The Bellomo family. Can try. His voice turned to steel wrapped in silk. But they'll have to go through me first. And I don't lose what's mine. He laid me on his bed, and in the darkness of his room, we stopped pretending this was business. His touch was worship and possession combined, and when he moved over me, careful of the baby between us, I understood. This was the real claim. Not the public performance or the arrangement. This was Dominic Vescari choosing me. And me choosing him back. Now, the afternoon had been ordinary, deceptively so. Ariana had insisted on visiting the small bookshop 3 blocks from the penthouse, craving normalcy like oxygen. Marco, her shadow, had agreed with reluctance. She never saw them coming. One moment she was reaching for a worn copy of poetry, the next a hand clamped over her mouth, dragging her backward through the stockroom. Marco's shout was cut short by a sickening thud. 3 men, faces hard as granite, shoved her into a waiting van. The door slammed, swallowing the light. The Vescari whore, one sneered, zip-tying her wrists. Nico Bellomo sends his regards. Ariana's hands moved instinctively to her belly, to Luca, as terror clawed up her throat. She forced herself to breathe, to think. Dominic would come. He had to come. The van lurched through the city for what felt like hours before stopping in some abandoned warehouse district. They hauled her inside, pushing her onto a chair beneath a single flickering bulb. The concrete floor was stained with things she refused to identify. Where's the amulet? The largest one crouched before her, breath sour. Your dead boyfriend hid it somewhere. Vescari knows. Which means you know. I don't. The backhand split her lip. She tasted copper. We can do this all night, sweetheart. Or we can start with the baby. The words turned her blood to ice. She was forming a desperate lie, anything to buy time, when the warehouse lights died. Then came the gunfire. It erupted in controlled bursts, methodical and precise. Men shouted, scrambled, fell. Through the chaos, Ariana heard a voice she knew, low, lethal, utterly unhinged with fury. Dominic materialized from the darkness like death incarnate. His white shirt was splattered crimson, his face pale as bone, eyes burning with something beyond rage. He moved through the Bellomo men like a blade through silk, efficient and merciless. The last one, her interrogator, raised his weapon too slowly. Dominic's bullet found his knee first, then his shoulder. He wanted him alive. He wanted him to suffer. You touched her. Dominic's voice was quiet, worse than any scream. You touched what's mine. The final shot echoed long after the body dropped. Then he was there, kneeling before her, cutting the ties with shaking hands. His fingers brushed her swollen lip, her tear-streaked cheeks, her belly where Luca kicked against his palm as if recognizing his father's touch. Ariana. Her name broke in his throat. I knew you'd come, she whispered. He pulled her against his chest, heedless of the blood, the bodies, the war he'd just declared. His lips pressed to her hair, fierce and trembling. You are mine, he said, the words a vow carved in iron. This stops now. I will burn their entire world to ash before they ever touch you again. She believed him. God help her, she believed every word. The Bellomo Empire fell in pieces over the following weeks. Ariana heard fragments, warehouses seized, accounts frozen, key men vanishing into the night. Dominic spoke little of it, but she saw the exhaustion carved into his face, the late nights, the phone calls taken in clipped Italian behind closed doors. He was dismantling them. Methodically. Completely. For her. On a rain-swept evening 3 weeks after the warehouse, he found her in the library, curled beneath a cashmere throw with her hand resting on her enormous belly. Luca had been restless all day, tumbling and kicking as if impatient to meet the world. Dominic stood in the doorway, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite name. Then he crossed the room and lowered himself to one knee. Her breath caught. From his pocket, he produced a velvet box, aged and worn at the edges. Inside lay a ring, not the obscene diamond she might have expected, but something far more precious. An antique setting, delicate gold filigree cradling a deep blue sapphire surrounded by seed pearls. This belonged to my grandmother, he said quietly. She gave it to my grandfather when she accepted him, knowing exactly what he was. What loving him would cost. His dark eyes held hers, stripped of armor. I am not a good man, Ariana. I have done things that would make you weep. But I am asking you to be mine, legally, permanently, in every way that matters under God and law. Dominic, the baby will carry my name regardless. I've already insured it, but I want you to choose me. His voice roughened. I am demanding a claim I have no right to demand. I know this, but I find I cannot let you go. She looked at the ring, at the history it carried, at the man kneeling before her with blood on his hands and something terrifyingly close to love in his eyes. She thought of Liam, of the naive girl she'd been, of the wreckage that had led her here. She thought of safety, of danger, of the strange, fierce tenderness Dominic showed her when no one else was watching. Yes, she whispered. He slid the ring onto her finger, then pressed his lips to her knuckles, lingering there as if sealing an oath. For weeks later, in a private hospital suite guarded by 6 of Dominic's men, Luca Vescari entered the world screaming. Ariana, exhausted and radiant, watched Dominic hold his son for the first time. The most dangerous man in the city cradled the infant with heartbreaking gentleness, one finger tracing the curve of a tiny cheek. My son, he murmured, voice thick with wonder. My family. He looked at her then, and she saw it clearly, the vow remade, deeper than any ring or ceremony. They were his now, bound by choice and blood and something that felt, against all reason, like love. The Vescari legacy had a new beginning.